Welcome back to the Suarez Sound Off. Today's guest is David Wallack, the owner of Mango's Tropical Café and one of the most influential figures in the history of Ocean Drive. For decades, Mr. Wallack has been at the center of Miami Beach's biggest controversies: nightlife, tourism, preservation, development, traffic, Miami Beach's decision to break up with spring break, and the future of Ocean Drive itself. He has witnessed the transformation of South Beach from a struggling neighborhood into an internationally recognized destination. I hope you enjoy this conversation with Mr. Wallack. Today's guest is David Wallack, entrepreneur, restaurant, preservation activist, philanthropist, and longtime owners of Mango's Café. It's one of the most iconic venues on Ocean Drive. For decades, David has been deeply involved in the evolution of Miami Beach and the nonstop debate over what Ocean Drive should be. Nightlife versus neighborhood concerns, preservation versus redevelopment, pedestrian promenade versus traffic access, tourism versus quality of life, and whether Miami Beach is losing some of the energy and identity that made it world famous. We also discuss his philanthropy, environmental work with Pelican Harbor Seabird Station, which I'm a big donor of, as you know, and why he believes Miami Beach is at a major turning point in our evolution as a city. I'd like to start off with Ocean Drive. We're all on Ocean Drive. It's been a hot topic for the last couple of years. When you first got involved on Ocean Drive, what was it like?
When I first got involved?
Yeah.
Well, remember, my family has owned this building since 1955. And so what it was first like for me was I was folding towels as an eight-year-old, going to Central Beach Elementary, which is now, I guess, Ida Fisher Elementary on Washington Avenue, living on Collins Avenue, and this was a hotel, so that was my first, that's how far back I go in working and living on South Beach and being on Ocean Drive. That comes then, we moved to 10th and Michigan, then we moved to 37th and Royal Palm, then we moved to Biscayne Point. So my friends spanned from South Beach, the South Beach kids, all the way to the North Beach kids, and I went to Nautilus in 9th grade and Beach High. However, I graduated military school at Admiral Farragut Naval Military Academy in St. Petersburg, and then went to University of Miami, graduated University of Miami, magna cum laude and with honors, and then went to Miami Law School, graduated Miami Law, which then circled me back to Ocean Drive. We still had this property, and now it was the 70s. The 70s was a period on Miami Beach where it had just come through, where the big moratorium with the city, and it was going to become like Fort Lauderdale with canals and boats and sailboats in the canals and high-end residential and high-end everything high-end, the moratorium. And so the banks had redlined South Beach. No mortgages for anybody in South Beach, every bank. And so South Beach was in a moratorium and just stagnation, where everyone was waiting, and it never came. The plan never came. And so everything just sunk slowly into the abyss of closed, dark, closed, bankrupt,
This is in the 70s.
Short sales, the 70s. And that was when I was going to law school. And I happened to be a great golfer at the time. And I got into a golf tournament at Doral. And I happened to hit the ball about 340 yards and drove a par 4 green. I was with 3 other lawyers that they stuck me with in the foursome, people that I never met before. As soon as they saw me hit that ball and drive that green, they hired me as a clerk for their firm, which was out at Kendall, and they only had one client, which was a hospital group, and 3 hospitals, and I was doing research, and that brought me into medical research. I don't know exactly what I was researching, but I just came upon the 1976 law, Adult Congregate Living Facilities. Adult Congregate Living Facilities. Now they call it ALF. I guess that's Adult Living Facilities. Mm-hmm. But I saw it as an alternative to nursing homes. And it was designed because people were taking 5 or 6 elderly people into residential homes in residential neighborhoods. And the state, I guess, came upon some bad ones, and they wanted to get them licensed and all of that. So I looked at that law, and we had this building on Ocean Drive, which was going down with all of Miami, all of South Beach anyway. And so I designed a plan to create the first commercial adult congregate living facility in the state of Florida. And because I was moving more into the world of wellness and good health, I created the first holistic care facility for the elderly. And that nobody was getting mortgages.
And how old were you at the time?
I was in 1977. It was 1977. I was just in my senior year of law school, so I guess I was in my early 30s.
Okay.
Early 30s. And so I went to Bart Goldberg, and I just saw Michael Goldberg and his family having dinner right here the other night, but I went to Bart Goldberg with a business plan. And he looked at it, and one of his vice presidents brought me in because she looked at it, and Bart said, I like it, and I'm going to finance you. And I got the first mortgage that was given in years in South Beach. And I created the Eastern Sun holistic care facility for the elderly. It just so happened, I created a magnificent thing, and everyone thought I was crazy. Nobody's going to pay those rates. But I figured even wealthier people have parents that need care. And it so happened that I was right. In the early years, Russell Galbert, a name that's very well known on Miami Beach, we became friends, and he had also just met and married Rana. And so we became friends, and he studied what I was doing, and he created the second ACLF and got into the adult living care, congregate living facility business.
Were you guys competing against each other?
No. Actually, I loved their manager. And so they were up a little further up on the beach behind Temple Emmanuel area, right over there. And so I was working with them. And in getting them rolling and helping them, answering any questions. And a lot of people were coming in to see what I was doing, because literally my business was the only business thriving on South Beach. And then it evolved into needing to create hospice care. And I had a gentleman come in with late stage cancer and in pain, and that really got my heart, my attention, that pain, and I started searching for better answers to deal with that stage of life and that situation. And I found it in England. In England, they had a thing called Brompton's cocktail. And it was in a cherry syrup, a mixture of morphine. Morphine is the standard in the United States, just morphine for pain. But morphine kind of took you out of pain, but also you went to sleep for much of it, and then you come out and you're in pain again, and that cycle. And so Brompton's cocktail was a mixture of morphine, heroin, and cocaine in this cherry syrup. And the cocaine was in it, I would imagine, to keep you up, but out of pain. The rest was for the pain. And so I looked at that, and then I realized only an MD could prescribe that here in the United States. And in Miami, only a hospital pharmacy could produce that. You can't go to Walgreens
Right.
and order that. So only Mount Sinai here could produce that Brompton's cocktail, and you needed an MD. That had me searching for a holistic MD, and in those days, in the early 80s, that was not so easy to find a holistic MD. Allopathic medicine is still the norm. So I found one in Broward County, and then it was meeting with the families and meeting with this MD and meeting then with their current doctor and really getting so that they understand what this is, and then ordering it and at Mount Sinai with a proper prescription, and then a nurse administering it, and all of a sudden people were out of pain and with their friends and with their family awake. That was the revelation. And that brought me to hospice care, and I began studying with Elizabeth Kubler-Ross in death and dying work, and I began hospice and pioneered hospice care, which got to the government of Japan. And Japan, it seems, was searching the world for new systems for their elderly, because the women of Japan were starting to want to go out to work and make money. And so now who was going to take care of grandma and grandpa in Japan? And so here, right on Ocean Drive, I'm talking about in the dark, dark days of nobody's here, 8 limousines pulling up with a total delegation from Japan for me to lecture them here.
In this building.
Right where we're sitting.
In the 70s.
Right here in the late 70s, early 80s. That was when I got my first key to the city of Miami Beach. When the second delegation came, the mayor came running. Alex Dowd was the mayor then, a man who has passed, but also helped inspire the renaissance of Miami Beach, but sort of had his hand in the cookie jar, I think. But he came running with a few commissioners to honor the delegation, the second Japanese delegation that they heard about, and they gave me my first key to the city for doing that in those days. But the government of Japan was very concerned with finding the right kind of care for their society, really, and because they were undergoing that change. For what happened here was...
You had a hospice care in this building?
This was a hospice. This was a care facility where judges, attorneys, congressmen, senators, the higher end, the surgeons, the chief of surgery of Mercy Hospital, his mother was here on Palm Star, Hibiscus.
Everyone would come here.
Star Island, major surgeon, his mother and father were here. That's who I was taking care of, the great families of Miami Beach as well. And
and honestly, what a great location, because you have the beach right there if you want.
We used to, anyone who wanted to go swimming, now remember that we didn't have it wasn't as far, we had the original sand. But anyone who wanted to go swimming, we had life jackets and floats and even we were wheeling wheelchairs right into the water with people who were paralyzed. We were all about, I want you to continue your life and be happy and celebrate. And so right where we are my chef was from Wolfie's. And so we were having great food, great parties, great celebrations, and I was also producing music, so my friends were musicians. So we had parties with great live music right here.
What kind of music?
You know, it would varied from, I was doing, my music was country rock and country, and so I was bringing in my musicians to do that, all the way to New Age music with Stephen Halpern, who was a very famous, if you go into any New Age music store, you'll see a Stephen Halpern section. He was here playing, and
So you would make music for the people that would stay here?
Always. And every weekend we went to Watson Island to the Japanese tea house that was there for a picnic with musicians, and we were going to Hialeah racetrack with full medication, lunch, everything, you know, staff, nurses, everything. I wanted people to enjoy their lives. I got a grant and got a van, and we were taking people to Alabama Jack's for daiquiris once a month. Who wants to go to Alabama Jack's for daiquiris down in North Key Largo area?
Yeah.
So it winds up that holistic care for the elderly and hospice care was, I thought it would be my entire life. I had no thought about changing Mango's Tropical Cafe. That came in a revelation, and also after I met these two guys.
Tell me about them.
That's Mark Soika, and Mark introduced me to Tony Goldman. And we kind of formed an amazing friendship. Mark lived above the News Cafe. He created the News Cafe. Tony had the Park Central and multiple properties, but still at that time everyone was broke. And Tony was going broke because nothing had hit yet. And Mark was going broke. I was the only one doing business in my care facility.
Right.
And literally, they had not yet hit. I was sitting with Mark Soika at the News Cafe because I believed in what they were doing, and we were really close friends. But Mark is sitting there going, I don't know what we're doing here, but I got to go make the sandwiches because my cook is in jail again. Anyway, those were those days, and the gangsters came in and bought that hotel group. They picked up that package, and they were on Ocean Drive, and the early days started to hit in, and Tony was sort of like, it was sort of like coming together with the Beatles. I played with great musicians. I played with the Bee Gees drummer when they went into a drum machine, and all of a sudden Dennis Bryan, their drummer.
What instrument would you play? What instrument would you play?
I was on guitar, he was drumming, and with another couple guys from England, we were on stage playing on Washington Avenue, and played the Cameo, and played a bunch of concerts. But I loved music, and I still love music, and I still work in music and do that. But Tony was like John Lennon. He was the leader. He was the leader of the band. He had that charisma. He had the intelligence. When I met these guys, because I met the early developers, they came and went. But when I met these guys, all of a sudden I went, whoa, these guys are real. And I used to swim a mile a day, and I lived right here in those days, right here in my care facility.
Right.
And so I used to swim down to the jetty at First Street and back and around the boat markers on the outside, and back in, and that would be, and one day I'm swimming along, and a sea turtle comes up, swimming kind of alongside me over here, and I go, hello, and he goes down, and about 8 seconds later, Mango's Tropical Cafe. And I went, thank you, God, and I just kept swimming, and that is where Mango's Tropical Cafe came from. But here I am now offered a major care facility in Boca Raton, a major apartment complex to convert, and and everything is booming in the care. And now I meet these guys and Saul Gross and Mel Schlesser and the K family, and all of a sudden, and a woman named Sandy who bought the Locust right next to me and created a French restaurant. All of a sudden, brilliant people came together, and it was like, what if I redeveloped this whole thing? And I started fantasizing, what if I joined them and created something totally different? And then anyone I confided in was, you are nuts. You are crazy. You have this whole thing that you've done. You're so successful. People are copying you all over the place. You're getting known internationally for your work. And now you're offered this thing in Boca. And I said, yeah, I know. You're right. Then a guy came down from Canada, a very nice gentleman, and bought a hotel in the 30s on Collins Avenue and a garden apartment complex in Miami, and said, David, I want you to come and set me up just like you have done with the Eastern Sun, and I'll pay you. And he was paying me very handsomely to do that as a consultant. And so I said, okay. And then
What do you mean set up? What do you mean?
Just really set up his businesses as adult congregate living facilities so that he can then operate,
And just to give the viewers context, in the 70s or in 80s, it was many elderly people here. People came here to retire.
Yeah, it was right across the street. Every night was singing.
What did they say? A heaven's doorstep?
Yes. And I mean, that's what was happening here. And that was it. It was dead. Everything was almost closed. Ocean Drive was 3/4 closed. Literally, everyone's already out of business. It was cheaper to be closed than to operate and even have how many people working. Collins Avenue as well, Washington as well. And so South Beach was just a blackout. And what people don't realize also is crime. The crime we have today was nothing compared to what was then in the darkness. We also had the Mariels. And during my time in doing care facility, there were gunshots every night. I mean, gunshots. You always went out to the side streets where we parked, and your window was in the street with your radio gone, and so that was normal on South Beach. You were lucky that only the window was broken, that kind of a thing, and the rest of the car wasn't damaged. So those were those days, and here now we have a gunshot here, gunshot there. We're ready to close the city and board up. But it back then was dangerous to walk the streets. In the darkness, anything goes, and so it's that we can get more about that. But what happened was, I said to him, what if I was to move my entire operation into both of your buildings, along with my staff, and I managed it for a year and got you rolling that way? How much would you pay for that? And that turned out to be such a number that it became the magic bridge if I wanted to convert. And the bank, I needed to refinance. And so I went back to, I'm not sure whether it was Bart Goldberg or City National at the time, but they needed 7 leases in order for me to then, and so I looked at it and I went, I'm going to start high rent in Miami Beach. And normally the rent was about $25 a square foot. It was everything was empty. And so I said, I'm starting it at $45 a square foot. And I was, oh, you're crazy, David, you're crazy. Nobody's going to pay that. I said, not only that, but I'm going to start key money. What's key money? Key money is you put down cash just to get the lease. And it's going to be 7% increases annually, triple net. Nobody's going to do that, David. Nobody's going to do that. Bang, 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 bang. Here comes key money, leases, and rent it out in 2 weeks. all of a sudden South Beach was
What changed?
catching on.
What caused that?
South Beach was starting to catch. Washington Avenue, excuse me, Washington Avenue was catching fire with clubs, entertainment, and it was hip. And people were starting to come, and that's when the models started. And Tony was catering to the models, and everyone was catering. We had 4 modeling agencies with offices on Ocean Drive. And I knew pretty much all of them. But, and then all of a sudden you started to see the streets changed. Women were walking on South Beach, on Ocean Drive. Women walking in a war zone. It was changing. And it was evolving because of these 2 guys and the others that when we formed Ocean Drive Association, the people that sat around that table were just, the mix was brilliant, led by Tony and Mark, artistic, creative, and innovative, and not afraid. And the government was in such a state where they were open to creativity. And people were coming in and starting to open businesses. And so it
And this
was,
is around the mid-'80s, late 80s?
This is late 80s and into the early 90s. I closed, decided to do it. My elderly people, the last 3 weeks, were all slicing up mangoes. And slicing up mangoes, and we're bagging up mangoes because I was going to open with frozen mango daiquiris with real mango. And I had a freezer storage space in Miami, and we were bagging up thousands of pounds of mangoes. All my elderly right here are sitting, and it was an activity that everybody loved, slicing up mangoes. And we did that for 3 weeks, and then everyone who was moving, I moved them to these 2 facilities. First got them ready, and then moved them to those, to move my staff, went into construction, and that right there was a pizza and pasta restaurant with glass. That was a Mexican restaurant with glass. Mangoes was only right here with just this little piece of the bar right here. There was an elevator right there for my elderly people. Upstairs was still hotel rooms, and we had tables and chairs with umbrellas outside. And that was it. And we opened March 30th, 1991. Mango's Tropical Café. And we were broke like everybody else until we hit in 1996. And one day I asked Tony, I asked Marlo. Marlo.
What do you mean by hit?
Huh?
What do you mean by hit?
All of a sudden, the cash register starts turning. We opened playing reggae and country and rock. And sort of like the Clevelander was a great sports bar. They became the #1 sports bar in the state of Florida. And we were moseying along until one day a guy named Miguel Cruz came in. He said, I played with Santana in Los Angeles, and I want to play Afro-Latin jazz, and I'll rock the house. I said, come on in. And he came in, and he started banging a conga like a wild man. My staff, girls, jumped up on the bar. I never asked my staff to jump up on the bar and dance. Never asked them to. They did it themselves. And all of a sudden, 3 girls are dancing up on the bar, and Mangoes became known for that all around the world. And I said, keep playing. And it went from beer to Black Label. And all of a sudden, Mangoes took off. And one day, interestingly enough, Gloria Estefan and Emilio came in with Andy Garcia because Andy knew Miguel Cruz. And so Gloria and Emilio were sitting right up there. The band was then playing right over here. And Andy Garcia was playing the conga. And Emilio is sitting up there on the rail studying it. And Gloria's having a great time. Andy was having a ball playing the congas with Miguel Cruz, and it was a party going on. That was actually, they then went on to then buy property on Ocean Drive and open bongos after they came and studied and looked at mangoes that day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. What made Ocean Drive special back then? In the late 90s and
women and nightlife. You know, Miami Beach, when what bothers me about preservationists is they care more about praying to the rocks than they do about what it takes to make the rocks come alive. And these buildings are not the Wailing Wall. What's important is keeping these buildings in good repair and beautiful, but that takes an operation.
Right.
That throws off money. And if you don't have that, then everything goes dark again, just like the same cycle that of the 1970s. But if you really look at the history of Miami Beach, going right back to Carl Fisher, in 1916, when he discovered Miami Beach, he made his deal with the Loomis brothers. They gave him 160 acres. And by 1919, he was in the same West Palm Beach, the old wealthy, the old have the money, and he was going bankrupt by 1919, until he had a revelation. His revelation was, the hell with the old people, the hell with Palm Beach, we're Miami Beach. We're going for the young people. We're going for excitement, for competition. Now remember, he started the Indianapolis 500. He became wealthy with making a new headlight for cars. And he was a racer. So he is races, entertainment, nightlife, parties, and Miami Beach took off as the world's playground. Now the 26 hurricane banged into here so hard, literally that Miami Beach was 100% underwater for a certain number of hours. Even on Collins Avenue in Washington, which is the highest point, had 3 feet of water. And so West Avenue had to have 10 feet of water. Everything was underwater. And the boom of real estate got killed in all of South Florida. That slowly triggered into the crash of 1929, which then hit the banks, and you had the Great Depression. But the amazing thing, David, is, and for all of you preservationists, you should also become historian preservationists. The amazing thing is, there was never a depression in Miami Beach. We were building hotels that we revere now.
Right.
And we preserve now. How could we be building hotels in the Great Depression? Why? There was no depression. Here, the party raged on. We also had prohibition in the United States at the same time, 1933. There was no prohibition here. Booze was all over the top of the tables in every hotel and restaurant. Why? Because the police were very well taken care of by the bootleggers. And there was no depression nor prohibition. Gambling was right on top of the tables. This was Monaco. There was no Las Vegas. This was the gambling and party place in the United States, Miami Beach. And so we went through the 30s, and then we hit the war. Every hotel room was taken over by the armed services, and they were training on Bayshore Golf Course, which is now Miami Beach Golf Course. Right. But every night, thousands of soldiers were on leave at any given night and filled the clubs to capacity. And so, again, it was a boom time of partying in Miami Beach, which again created more hotels to be built. And then they all went off to war. And then many moved back to Miami Beach after the war. But then what followed was like a period that got us into the 50s and 60s. What was that? Frank Sinatra, Sammy Davis Jr., Rodney Dangerfield, Dean Martin, Jerry Lewis, and all of those great stars filled the Miami Beach hotels. They did their late show at 1 o'clock in the morning every night in the hotels. At 3 o'clock, you could find Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis at Wolfie's 21, because Wolfie's 21 stayed open 24 hours. They were the only late night one. But they stayed, and so if you wanted to see the stars, go at 3 o'clock in the morning to Wolfie's. That is Miami Beach. And so we cruised into, and then what happened? People go, oh, well, our elderly people died off in the 70s. Yes, that's true. But they weren't the lifeblood. They were residents. And our elderly were residents. We took care of them right here. So it was a wonderful society and cultural society, but it's not what kept the real prosperity turning. The 70s became that, and it was because Las Vegas came online. And in 1951, why is this doing this? Boom. In 1951, in Washington, D.C., a senator, God, his name is escaping me right now, began Senate hearings on crime, on organized crime, and it led them right to Miami Beach. And they came down here and they saw everyone's gambling, and gambling is right out on the tables. It's like, this is like, and it was the police were all being paid off to look the other way. And that got exposed, and anyone can read the record on those Senate hearings. Name might pop into my head, but in any event, that took the gambling off the tables, and now prohibition was over. So liquor was still running, but gambling moved to Las Vegas. And by the end of the 60s, Las Vegas began paying Frank Sinatra $45,000 a week, and the Fontainebleau had been paying Frank Sinatra $15,000 a week. Every A+, A, B, C level talent all went to Las Vegas, and Miami Beach plummeted with no entertainment to grab the young people. There was no lack of young people. They just weren't here anymore. They went to Las Vegas. And so that's when the 70s hit and Miami went dark. Miami Beach went dark. Miami was still in the darkness, but Miami Beach went dark. And so it took the renaissance of Tony Goldman, Mark Soika. I jumped onto their bandwagon and joined in with the band, you might say, and we began to play music. And by 1997, Tony hit. I asked Marlo Courtney, his chief administrator, one day, and again, Marlo was one of the, I loved Marlo Courtney. I was vice chairman of Ocean Drive Association for about 35 years, but Marlo ran Ocean Drive Association. I mean, a super administrator, best I've ever seen.
Well, where do you think were the golden years of Ocean Drive?
Well, in this last renaissance, I would say it began in 1997 and ran all the way to 2018. And at 2018, by that time, I think Philip Levine was our star mayor, and he began the destruction, really, of Miami Beach.
Would you say Miami Beach has lost some of its personality over time in the last 10 years?
You know, Miami Beach is a very magical place. It's going through the pandemic was a stutter step for Miami Beach, for the world,
Right.
for all of the United States, but for Miami Beach especially, because Miami Beach is the success and prosperity. Now, we have 22,000 hotel rooms, I'm told, and maybe a few more being built, but that's kind of slowed a little bit. But still, we have 22,000, and when you multiply that out, an average of 2 people per room, that's 7 days a week. And so that's 44,000 people a day needed to fill those rooms. Or if you take a certain percentage of vacancy factor, which nobody's 100%, or very rarely, you need still a substantial number of people to fill those rooms. And those people, you know, we are always predominantly from the Northeast. Miami Beach has been a solid Northeast, but in the Renaissance, we became international. The modeling agencies and everything became very international. Europe was here. Japan was here. South America was here. Everybody was coming to Ocean Drive. Now remember, Miami was not even open in those days of the 2000s, but you know, Suarez, the mayor of Miami, he really put a lightning bolt into Miami, and they now are a mini Manhattan over there with amazing compression, amazing restaurants. And I mean, you think you're in Manhattan with those tall buildings. It's amazing when you get into it and look at it. But Miami Beach fell off the wagon starting in 2018. And that was because it was Philip Levine sponsoring Let's Kill Ocean Drive. Let's kill entertainment. And first
that was the 5 a.m. and 2 a.m.
Well, but it began with removing the police. When they brought in Chief Dan Oates, it also, at least from what the police, the line police, so I'm very, very close with, because I work with them all the time. And we had Mangoes could afford to have off-duty police every day. So I was always with the police, and I've been on the board of the Police Athletic League for decades.
Yeah.
And so I'm very close with police, and I've done also a lot with even fire and police, with hurricane and relief in multiple country, and that kind of a thing. But aside from that, they all of a sudden had we don't want, the words that they used, we don't want confrontation. Now, Memorial Day weekend began, I forget what year, in the early, like 2000, 2001, 2002, right in those years. Mm-hmm. And it was the most horrific situation we had ever seen, ever. It was gang warfare, urban gang warfare openly on the streets. And it was, the police had to actually withdraw the first year. It was so overwhelming. And we were left with couldn't even get a 911 call going. That's how bad it was even in the first year. The blood and the fights and it morphed into what we call spring break, and what we lived out a little bit, but it began with that Memorial Day weekend.
Well, the Air and Sea Show also.
The Air and Sea Show is the greatest example, again, that entertainment brings wonderful people. such a great example, and they even had to have a concert that went with it. The Air and Sea Show really morphed Memorial Day weekend, but it left March and then spring break totally without. And so it's kind of shifted into that scene, and then we were for how many years? But it began with Memorial Day weekend, but they took the police away from Ocean Drive, and they were standing down, and it was like no confrontation. We don't want a controversy.
What mayor was this under?
Levine. And it was devastating. Within 2 weeks, drug dealers had taken over Ocean Drive, and I'm talking 30 to 50 drug dealers. In how many blocks are we talking? And I was chasing drug dealers down the street with my staff grabbing me. David, it's David, David. That's what was going on here for years. And that's where all of a sudden, at the same time, and with Levine, and then picked up the banner with Mayor Gelber, let's blame the businesses. When it's the police were taken off doing their job, and so it was running, we were the victims. The businesses were the victims of it. How can you have glorious, internationally renowned businesses, ranked nationally in the country, and people coming from all over the world for these businesses?
Well, some would argue that the businesses are attracting that crowd.
Yeah, but what crowd? We chased away the good crowd by allowing the crime in the street. We took away parking because people are partying in their cars. The police, by saying, excuse me, I'm going to tow your car if you don't stop. I stopped people from partying their cars just by saying the police are going to tow your car, and they shut everything down and stopped. There was no policing. And so we got what we got. It was helter-skelter. And the businesses became the boogeyman and became the scapegoat for, I kept looking for what's the real reason going on here? What's the real reason? And it unfolded even more in the Gelber administration, that it was all about, if you kill the main businesses of Ocean Drive, it'll kill Ocean Drive. You can buy those properties, and we take away the hours and just let them die. And then these properties, you'll be able to pick it up for 50 cents on the dollar when it drops like a stone. And that's what was going on. It was actually totally an underhanded developer deal.
If you could go back in time and you were mayor, what would you have done differently to stop that sort of mayhem?
I'm totally beholden to Mayor Stephen Miner for jumping all over getting the police to do their jobs and getting enough of them out there and attacking. And Stephen came on with that energy that was lacking for how many double administrations? Yeah. And so it was a mess.
Yeah, and at the time, it was very controversial to be, law and order. And he picked it up, and along with myself and many of my colleagues.
But that's why Miner did that, and that was a great thing. The people kept asking me, so how is it now? I said, well, now the street is beautifully peaceful in March, but there's no business. And so it was, I brought an international developer with a Live Nation Europe, a guy, we've never in this city had someone want to put down a $13 million check to put, he could have put Paul McCartney on stage. and Diana Ross, every great star in a concert.
But I want to get back to the chaos, right? Because a lot of residents, they remember that, and I remember that also.
And I remember that
Yeah.
too. I was here.
You know, a couple years ago, we came up with a slogan, "We broke up with spring break." Do you think that was necessary?
You know, again, everything that was done to get rid of that street crowd was great. It worked.
Yeah.
It took 2 years.
Yeah.
Took 2 years.
2 years. Yeah.
But it worked. The mistake was not replacing it with a different demographic of older person by using entertainment that older people love to fill the hotel rooms and create the economic prosperity, along with preempting all of Miami Beach from anybody getting a room.
Well, I think they tried to do that with the Alanis Morissette concert, right?
Not
And
big enough.
It wasn't. It didn't. But we spent, I think, $3 million. You know, not just for that concert, but that sort of entertainment. And it unfortunately there was a shooting, you know, that year.
Yeah, because again, it wasn't early enough, big enough, secure enough, and the police already deployed. You know, I mean, again, you can't go back on yesterday. You can only go forward. We can review yesterday and talk about it, but that's why, again, Steve Miner's true great achievement was getting the police deployed. And it still is a challenge, but it changed Miami Beach again. And now what we just need to do is become much more diverse and creative with every aspect. You know, wellness. I mean, my life was holistic health. I ran around with the entire holistic health group, which really began in Coconut Grove and came to Miami Beach because of me here at the Eastern Sun. But it was a real Coconut Grove-y thing.
Well, we brought, you know, myself, just to
Yes.
speak for myself, we brought Wadapalooza
Yes.
and High Rocks to Miami Beach.
Yes.
Which I think completely changed, was the pivot point of Miami Beach, where we sort of went away from the party scene and the drunken brawl scene to a more health conscious, fitness oriented destination. And even, you know, one of my colleagues, Commissioner Butt, she's coming up with the Blue Zones, another health and wellness concept where our city is going to be considered a blue zone. That brings all sorts of benefits to not only the city, but to the residents who live here full time. So are you happy with the direction that health and wellness is coming to Miami Beach? Because health and wellness and alcohol doesn't usually mix, as you know.
Sure. Different hours. Different hours is all. The answer to that is to do this organically. We need to fill this much to be healthy as a South Beach and Miami Beach business community. The whole health and wellness thing, that's that. It's great. Now, if you have years and years of massing and massing and massing and massing, in 10 to 15 years of depression, you'll come out of it. But if you want to come out of depression, you need to be much more diverse and attracting, and to say, you know, this is the misnomer, and this is the fallacy. You just said it. The drunk brawling. The drunk brawling was not going on when we were the #1 party scene in the world. the brawling was not happening. It was great partying and wonderful people from all over the world, every age, every culture, and young people galore, but no brawling. Memorial Day weekend brought the brawling, which morphed into that March brawling, but when they took the police away, it became 365 days of drug dealers on the street all day, all night. That was what created the downfall of let's not go to Ocean Drive, let's not go. It wasn't drinking. People go to a wedding, they drink. That doesn't mean there's brawling. I mean, people have anniversaries, birthdays, they're celebrating every day of whoever has a birthday, whoever has an anniversary, and bachelorette parties. I mean, the party always goes on. It's that they're not coming here to celebrate. Why? That is not something you want to get rid of. That's something you want to cultivate along with wellness. And who do you think is going to go to see Diana Ross and Paul McCartney on stage? 35 to 80-year-old people? Who do you think went to Pavarotti on the beach? It wasn't kids.
Right.
You just have to target properly and responsibly, sort of like an art curating a show, so that you have top quality art in that show. Music is just art. It's you have to curate it and not just let anybody play. And that is what Miami Beach is really missing, a maestro, a great maestro that has the ability, if it's wellness, to run 10 wellness programs in 1 week, and another 10 the following week, and another 20 the next week. And as well as concerts, as well as car shows, as well as sailboat races, hydroplane races, lifeguard competitions, international lifeguard competitions. I sponsored one way back when, and they were doing that. There are so many things that can be done that will fill the hotel rooms with great people and no brawling in the streets. We're just not being creative and realizing that that's part of the mix in order to create citywide prosperity.
Would you say that Ocean Drive is moving in the right direction?
No, we're moving 180 degrees in the wrong direction. What you're doing is creating darkness by taking, first of all, everything that the city has done with removal of parking, illegal. There are laws that have to be followed for repurposing a lane. The city has not followed any of those laws. There's Florida state law, there's Dade County law. The bicycle lane, illegal. There's no permit for it. These ballards in the street, illegal. So this city has been operating illegally, and quite frankly, the Clevelander took the city to court. They're going to be coming out with their ruling, but what the court is going to rule is very simple. You didn't have a permit. Everything is illegal from then on. So it's no different right now. So now we're cajoling Vicky Lopez to come out with Dade County and let's pedestrianize Ocean Drive. Pedestrianization also, look at preservation. Where are the preservationists who want Ocean Drive should be as Ocean Drive has always been, but without any violence?
Two-way traffic.
Yeah,
You mean with two-way traffic?
Two-way traffic, parking, because even little businesses need parking. The parking is decimated.
So there's a lot of alternative thought where they believe Ocean Drive would be better if it was fully pedestrianized, and it would add a much better experience, and it would be more of a a luxury promenade of Miami Beach. What are your thoughts on that?
The businesses would be bankrupt, and it would go through you wouldn't.
But wouldn't it help facilitate more foot traffic if it was fully? And explain why.
That's another fallacy. For many years, and again, I grew up on Miami Beach. I'm here since I'm 7 years old, since 1955. I've seen a lot of, the transitions, and I'm a pretty savvy guy when it comes to Miami Beach and Ocean Drive especially. Mm-hmm. So the thing is that we wanted to get, we want residents and families and residents to come to Ocean Drive and come to Loomis Park, and that's not Miami Beach. It never has been Miami Beach. I grew up on Miami Beach. If you had money, you didn't come to Ocean Drive. You went to a hotel where they had a restaurant and a swimming pool and the beach. And that's where everyone went. And that's no different now with people with money. They don't go to these little hotels with no parking, no swimming pool, and a little hotel room with a little bathroom. You have to be kind of a funky, hip kind of a person to do that if you're an older person, and that's a minority of the older people. But Miami Beach residents come here to South Beach for an event. For Pavarotti, they came. For Food and Wine, they come. For a great concert that is with an artist that they identify with, they flood in. And then they just all go home. No violence. That's a different world that hit us all from a different direction, you might say. But this is the people who live from West Avenue, from 5th to 15th Street, go to the beach here in Loomis Park. Everybody else, they come for special events, and that's the true Miami Beach.
But why would closing off Ocean Drive stop that?
Well, number one, it would destroy Collins Avenue. Destroy it, because you would have to, delivery trucks would have to be parking on Collins Avenue, and then those businesses would be sitting all day in their little cafes looking at the big truck parked for 5 times the amount of time, because they'd have to hand truck every order to Ocean Drive businesses.
What about the alleyways?
The alleyway is not big enough, and the alleyway is an alley. A police car could only get down an alley if there's no obstruction. If one car is inside of an alley, for any reason they were delivering something into, or a truck was doing some electrical work, then boom, even the alley would get clogged up and not be able to even let a police car through. The alley is too small for any fire rescue vehicle. The alley is dumpsters. It's for picking up the garbage and service. So the alley is an absolute no-go when it comes to an alternative route for operational aspects of Ocean Drive. You're talking about everything has to shift to Collins. Uber, valet, deliveries. Deliveries would be 4 or 5 times longer. Now remember, a truck gets loaded as it's delivered. You can't deliver. What happens when, I can't get over, I can't park because those trucks are still now there and they didn't leave. They can't even go to another place and deliver because that delivery is in order and they have to go in an order. So you're talking about the operational aspects would be devastating. Then you have valet. Then you have just normal parking. That would be gone because they would have to take all of it away. And that would then damage the small businesses again. And it's just dominoes that would keep falling in the wrong direction, as well as, right now the Park Central had already gone bankrupt and went into foreclosure. Now the Z Ocean, another one, is in foreclosure. The Good Time is it Good Time? Am I?
The Good Time Hotel, yeah.
Yeah, they're in foreclosure. It's already starting. The darkness is already starting. Then you're going to turbocharge it with pedestrianization. That concept is 180 degrees in the wrong direction.
It worked for Lincoln Road.
Now, I'm not saying let's not redo Ocean Drive. The sidewalks are deplorable. It needs a facelift. The lighting on Meridian Avenue by Flamingo Park, the lighting is like it's New Year's, and
world.
Here on Ocean Drive, it's like a slum. So the city has categorically taken Main Street and left it basically dark, dank, and unsupervised. And now they're supervising more, but I mean, I paint the sidewalk because the rocks are coming through it, so it's walked right through to the concrete, to the rocks showing through, all through Ocean Drive.
But, some would argue that Lincoln Road is fully pedestrianized, and it is still functioning fine. What would you say to that?
That Lincoln Road is what?
It's fully pedestrianized. It used to be.
Yeah, but it's half empty now. I mean, you know how many vacancies are on Lincoln Road? It's in total depression. Why? Why? Let's filter it right back to our brilliant Mayor Philip Levine. He destroyed Miami Beach, beginning by destroying Lincoln Road. How did that happen? He killed an international level hotel. I believe it was the Tishman Company that was going to pay 100% for the most incredible hotel, Vegas level hotel, to be over at where we now put a park, the big park over there. That was going to be an incredible hotel.
Which park?
That would have.
Which park?
Huh?
Which park?
I don't know the name. It's right in front of the convention hall.
Oh, Convention Center Hotel.
Yeah.
Or Convention Center Park.
That whole
Pride
thing.
Park.
That whole thing was going to be. The architecture was international level, huge compared to this hotel that we're building is a fraction of what that was going to be, and that would have boomed Lincoln Road, and then the dominoes from that success would have rippled all through Miami Beach, all the way through. That's how big that would have been. But that got killed by Philip Levine and his administration, and then we went into nothingness. And now, how much did the city contribute to this hotel that they're building with Sofa? How much did we contribute? 90 million? 80, 90 million?
The Convention Center Hotel?
Yeah.
With David Martin?
Yeah, but Miami Beach made a contribution to that. Do you remember how much?
It was before I got elected, but
in the 80, 90 million zone. That means Miami Beach taxpayers funded that hotel. When here we had a hotel that was magnanimous, way past what they're building, with no cost. That's when the city, we went into over the edge and just then slowly down. The pandemic accelerated that, but 23, 24, 25, 26, depression.
I want to get back into Ocean Drive. Would you say that the one-way configuration is a good compromise?
It's a middle ground. I will say that's a middle ground.
Because it is nice. I mean, I take my scooter.
It gives valet. It gives valet, and it gives a circulation. But it does take a main entry. Remember, it's Ocean Drive. People love to drive and look at it, and then decide, let's go there and we'll park. Mm-hmm. It took away a lot of parking, but aside from that, this is a middle ground. It's sort of like you can live on one lung. You won't live taking both lungs away, but you can live on one lung. That's like having the one lane is like where we can exist on one lung, not prosper immensely, but live. If that lane is taken away, it's going to be it'll take some years, because people who come and are pulling their suitcases around the block, I interviewed them when Gilbert did that for 6 weeks. I interviewed them. No women over 35 will come back. They're stuck because they already didn't know about it, but they won't come back. And people go, oh, but it's just, you walk and you check in and then you check out. And it's not only that. Every time you go to Joe's Stone Crab for dinner, you're going to get a ride over from an Uber or a taxi. Every time you go to Wynwood Walls, every time you go play golf at the golf course if you don't have your own rental car. And even if you have your rental car, you have to park so far away, you're still walking. Women 35 and up won't come back. Now that'll take a couple of years of that, and until all of a sudden, and it'll just keep stepping down. And remember, we're already been in depression since 2023. So 2022 was an artificial high because of the pandemic and everyone was booming here. But 2023, it crashed. And it takes years to come back unless you do something that's dramatic to bring in throngs of people. It's to bring in small things won't create a critical mass enough to change the dial.
I want to transition to the nightlife and alcohol regulations. And this is a little bit obviously before, I think it really peaked before I got elected, also during the Levine era. Miami Beach had spent years trying to tame the party atmosphere on Ocean Drive. Do you think that was at all beneficial to Ocean Drive?
Again, it was founded, that whole thing was founded by an evil purpose. This whole thing with crime. Nobody wants crime. Crime destroys all of us. And people don't realize that we're the first ones here on Ocean Drive in business to experience crime. We're the ones chasing them down the street. And when it gets totally out of hand, it's a 911 call. But the point is that got out of hand by having the police stand down for a certain number of years we went through. And so then it was, it's because of the party. It was not because of the party. It was because we took our police and tied their hands. The most infuriated group in our city in those years of 2015, 16, 17, even though we were still thriving, were the police. They were the most upset because our team of police you talk about heroes. They are our heroes. The firefighters, they're our heroes. We're running that way while they're running into the fire. We're running that way while they're running into the gunfire, if there's gunfire. So those are
But don't you think that, after 2 o'clock, and I'm just playing devil's advocate, but after 2 o'clock, nothing good happens when you're drinking alcohol?
That's again another thing that happened. How can you go a couple of decades with that not happening and everyone having a great time? We're going to have pancakes at the diner at 5 o'clock in the morning when we close.
Culture changes, right? And so do...
The culture that changed was crime in the streets. And so everything that you're saying, I understand it. But the reason for it, we differ on. But the reason, it had already happened. And so we didn't even deal with it until all of a sudden, now we're going to deal with it. It was not created. You go to every city in the country, and here it's not about the alcohol or the hours, it's about criminals. I just got sent a video of children on I-Drive in Orlando and Mango's is on I-Drive in Orlando, right across from us at a big, wide open, entertainment complex. Never a problem. All of a sudden, rioting. Because it's cool. Rioting. And police, having to even get injured while they're tackling rioters. And then people blaming the police.
Don't you think, with that same sort of line of logic, don't you think it's a little unfair to rely on the police for everything when it comes to, that sort of atmosphere where, why put that much added pressure on police by staying open till 5 as opposed to 2, 3 o'clock at night?
Well, again, if you don't manage things for a while, you're going to have a big problem getting it back to where it was before you stopped managing it. Right. Or maintenance. If we save money by just not doing maintenance and everyone saves money, that's what happens. Well, that is exactly what will happen when you close the street.
I guess you're referring to like the broken window theory, right? If you start neglecting the very simple things, it adds up to...
Then all of a sudden it costs you a lot to fix it all. And it's no different literally with policing. Look at what Minor did. It took 2 years to really get the streets back in order in just the second. And it was literally only 2 weekends. But that still didn't until we really did massive work on the drug dealers. And that's a 365-day-a-week job.
Aside from obviously public safety, and your collateral that unfortunately there's people who still drink and drive. That's obviously been toned down because of Uber, but nothing not to mention just crime, but just the overall atmosphere of partying. So for example, a lot of the residents complain about these late night cars that make a lot of noise. It almost sounds like there's a gunshot going on, and they're going to a club. And that's sort of like the collateral of having establishments open very late, because then everyone hears that coming down the street. And that's just a small example of a quality of life issue that people have, or the residents have in Miami Beach.
I agree with that. But those motorcycles that are, and now with sound systems that, cost $40,000 to put in a motorcycle. I've seen them in the custom shops that are blaring and cars blaring. But that upsets me personally. But what's the solution? The solution, again, is very simple. It's enforcing our laws on the street. And looking how big, it's very interesting, David.
And I get that, it's enforcement, but like I said, police can't be everywhere at once, right? They can't be on that road.
But late night is not everywhere at once either. Late night, literally on Ocean Drive, was designed only to be live music, 9th Street to 11th Street. Why? This was by design. Why? So we don't disturb residents. It's all the way to 5th Street before you hit a condo on Ocean Drive, and all the way to 15th Street before you hit a condo on the north end. And so it was designed just to be 9th to 11th Street, nowhere else. Everything else ambient. And so we were very, very cognizant that we needed to respect our residents, and thereby, and Washington was Washington, but we were very, very cognizant of respecting our residents. And by the way, here's another thing that's I think, a thing that's not known. Ocean Drive Association is not the #1 business organization anymore on Ocean Drive or South Beach. Sobe Business Alliance, this is a list of 43 members, and more are joining each week. 43 members, which include the biggest hotel group on Ocean Drive. The biggest hotel group on Ocean Drive. And what are these all joining for? To keep Ocean Drive open to vehicles. Now, what you said, most want it fully open, but there is a group also in here that does not mind the compromise of keeping the valet lane and one lane so that we can all function.
How do you feel about it personally?
How do I feel about
The
it?
one lane compromise.
As I say, I am much more for the original Ocean Drive. That preservationist part of me. I yearn for those days, but just redo the whole street and make it all really beautiful, and redo the lighting in the park and landscaping. You know, we've had so many hurricanes and we've never re-landscaped. It's just been diminish, clean it up, no planting, no real planting. But in any event, there's a lot that we can do to make things incredibly beautiful, but we don't. In terms of functioning, I'd rather be on one lung than dead.
Yeah.
And so the compromise of one lane plus the valet lane keeps us alive with oxygen that's able to flow.
And I wanted to also touch on the development of Miami Beach. And, you know, Miami Beach is facing enormous pressure from the development community, the state, and that ties into Live Local. You know, the Live Local Act has changed development conversations statewide, not just Miami Beach. You know, there was even a proposal for a 30-foot tower at the Clevelander site. What was your perspective on that application? And that it's currently in process, but what do you think that would do to Ocean Drive? Would it be good or bad for your business? Would it be, but overall good or bad for Ocean Drive?
I'm a pioneer. I pioneered hospice care. I pioneered entertainment and in the glory days of the Renaissance, and here we are 35 years later in a different cycle, as you have pointed out. I brought to Mayor Gelber, I optioned 3 properties on Collins and created an incredible residential structure that needed 150 feet because it was set back from Ocean Drive, but then it needed some place to go up or else it made no financial sense. Mm-hmm. So I created this, and then I built in commercial, beautiful commercial on the ground floor around, you know, facing Ocean Drive, and I mean a magnificent, beautiful, residential, high-end building. Mayor Gelber loved it. And David, that's beautiful. But obviously I was way ahead of my time, and I lost a couple of $100,000 optioning property because it was too far ahead of its time. I'm not the only one who uses the number 150 feet. I've heard David Martin, I've heard other developers use that number 150 feet. A developer, if we're going to have an alternative and want to create residential, you have to give a developer the ability to make a profit. Now, the residents, our residents currently politically, even the word developer is a dirty word. It used to be the word tourism is a dirty word, but now developer is even a more dirtier word than tourism. But literally, it's the developer that's going to do and redevelop. Right now, in all of South Beach, do you remember I said the moratorium of the 70s?
Yeah.
Well, we are in a de facto moratorium because there's no development plan that any developer is going to invest in. Because you can only go vertical, you can't put together these hotels. This one's historic, this one's not, this one is, this one not, da, da, da. You have to go vertical. And if you don't, and this is by our top Miami Beach developers said, David, if we don't make 15% profit, we're not going into it at all. And so if the developer cannot be assured in his numbers that he can clear, and remember, delays create losses. Delays in whatever, so they calculate these things, and because no project goes just perfectly. So you have to build in, and only with the right height do they have enough square footage to make a profit. If we want to play whatever game.
But just get back to Ocean Drive.
Yeah.
What do you think if that project does get approved out of the court settlement? What do you think that would do to Ocean Drive? Would it be an added benefit, or would it change sort of the direction of Ocean Drive because it's no longer going to be a tourist destination? It is now there's a catalyst for more residential.
Again, you can't have your cake and eat it. You have to choose what direction. I mean, 5th to 15th to 14th Street is not a residential district. Yet 300 residents want to control it. And our commission bid on that. And so who are these 300? Retirees, rich retirees. So they can contribute and they can email you 10 times a day till you're sick of reading their emails. And finally, okay. And I get that. That's normal. But realize that 5th to 14th Street, they're hotels and restaurants. If those restaurants go down, that hotel goes down because that's the main tenant. And so if we think pedestrianization is going to bring a lot of people, you're dreaming.
Yep.
It's going to cut it, but not just cut it, it's going to cut it massively.
Well, the question I'm more concerned about is, if there's a 30-foot tower now on Ocean Drive, where it's never been like that, what do you think that's going to do to change Ocean Drive? Again, you're playing with setbacks, but it's going to change. But you want change. Oh, we want to change, but we don't want that kind of change. Oh, well, we want to change, we don't want this, but we want that kind of change. What change? You can't say we want residential and not give the height. It won't work. That's bullshit. Whoever's saying, whoa, I don't care whether it's a preservationist or a retiree from Bellagio or, Jonathan at the Betsy. It won't work. And so all you're doing is condemning us to another year of indecision and depression because we're slowly going down. Oh, look at the resort taxes. Oh, look at the resort taxes. I've been trying to do a public records request on getting resort taxes. I've even heard we can't find it. You tell me, David, they can't find the resort tax records? Oh, I'm sure they can find it.
Yeah, well, 3 requests from my land use council, and I still don't have them. So the point is, if this is going to be a tourist zone, but we can't renovate it and go up, then you can't say, well, then we're only going to have the pedestrianization, we're going to only have it, and it's just going to go dark. Dark breeds crime again. And so all of a sudden you're going to go through, well, and who's going to pay for it? Won't be the businesses. And what you also don't realize that the dominoes, once they start falling, they're going to fall in the direction of, guess what? People, if they got appraisals on their commercial property right now, would be lining up to do Burt Harris Act lawsuits against the city of Miami Beach for damaging property values, because that has already happened.
If you could wave a magic wand and change Ocean Drive, what would you do?
I love police, okay? I mean, I really love police, and I also know life safety. And I have to interject this with my answer, because I listened to the early commission meeting, the last commission meeting, and Commissioner Bott, threw in a line. I forgot exactly what her subject was, but the words rang into my head. Of course, life safety is primary. Of course, life safety is primary. Well, every time you barricade in Ocean Drive, you've said life safety is not primary. It's not even secondary, because we've created delayed response time for police and, most important, fire big trucks. When you see cars pulling up to barricades and making U-turns, and another car behind it both making U-turns, if at that moment any emergency vehicle comes around the corner, and I videoed it on 15th Street happening with 3 cars 3 times in 25 minutes, all making U-turns to get out, including 2 scooters and an Uber.
So what would you change?
Number one, I'd beautify Ocean Drive. And I would take a different creative tack. Number one, let's get the stage reset and get the street beautiful, get the sidewalks beautiful. And I mean, you go to Bellagio in Las Vegas and you see that water show. We could be doing that on the palm trees with computerized lighting, even on one side of the palm trees that don't face the turtles, but face the buildings. And with computerized lighting, it could be with even speakers to Mozart and great orchestra. And it would be incredible for 2 blocks, and then all of a sudden the residents would be coming to Ocean Drive even to see it. There are so many creative things that can be done, but music is international, and curating music. What do people do? I had a home in Park City. They have a whole summer concert series, and everyone's sitting on the ski hill at the bottom with the band playing over here, and it's, and there's a concert every week in the summer. There are so many things that we can do that are creative. Car shows are art. Everything that's art will work, but every genre. But the main thing is not being afraid to curate it the same as an art show, and saying, no, if we're doing music, this is the music that we're playing, and that's it.
All right. I'm going to pivot to your philanthropy. And specifically Pelican Harbor. Why do you contribute to Pelican Harbor? And I have my own story for Pelican Harbor, but I found it very fascinating. I found, because they invited me for one of their events, because for the first 2 years of my commission gig, I donated 100% of my salary to Pelican Harbor. And the reason for that is because many years ago, when I was on Miami Beach, I was on my scooter, and then I saw a possum get hit by a car. And then I kept on going, and I just didn't feel right because he was kind of limping. And 2 blocks later, I turned around, and it was dying. It was pretty much dead. But I noticed that the belly was moving, and I know that they're marsupials. So I opened the belly, or I opened the pouch, and there was 4 baby possums in the pouch. And at this point, the mother had died. And it was so sad because they were still sucking on the nipple. And they're very long nipples. I couldn't just leave them there. So the 2 had died, and then there was 2 alive. So I took the ones that were alive out of the mom, and I I didn't even know Seabird Station existed. And so I did some research that night. I put him in like a warm blanket with like a heating pad, and by the morning time, I had realized that there's something called Pelican Seabird Station, and you wouldn't think that they take care of possums, but they do. All native wildlife.
It's native.
And I took them there, and believe it or not, I brought them there. It was apparently like 1 week. If they're 1 week younger, they would have euthanized them, but they were just old enough where they could have taken care of them, and they took care of them and they survived. And I thought that was so fascinating.
Yeah.
And
yeah, it is.
And ever since then, whenever I see a dead possum on the road, I stop and I look for babies.
Wow.
I make my wife stop. She hates that. But ever since then, and I saw their operation, and I was like, wow, this is beautiful. And when I think of government service, I think it really is a public service. So any sort of money that I get, I just want to donate it to charity, and that's my soft spot, is the environment and nature. And we do so much destructive things to nature that this is my way of sort of giving back to them. And so I found it very fascinating that you were there. I think they were giving me an award, and you were there. So tell me, how did you get involved with Pelican Harbor?
It's interesting because what aspects of what you just said are similar to my experience. I was headed out with my assistant June to the airport to fix we were going to, I had a computer problem with, what do you call it, TSA, okay. TSA. I had a computer, so I had to go to their office. And so we parked at the airport, and they have these little bushes, in the parking lot, and I pull in and I get out of the car, and here is a blackbird with a broken wing. And I just happened to have a bottle of water, and I just happened to have some sunflower seeds that I was eating. And it's like kind of right in the car next to where we were parked, and I look and I go, that. So I get a little something to hold water, and I said, I don't know how long it's been there, but I put out a little water, and I put out some sunflower seeds, and we went up and did our work with TSA and came back down, and here it is. And so I go, oh, I need to try to get this bird, and I'm going to take it to my vet, Hollywood Animal Hospital, which is a regional
VCA
animal hospital. And I don't know if they do birds, but that's where I was going to go. And so I'm trying to catch it, and it keeps hopping and hopping and hopping and hopping, and I'm trying to be really gentle. And so finally, I was wearing a T-shirt at the time. I take off my shirt, and it hops into the bushes, like kind of at the edge of about 6 parking spaces down, and hops right into these little low bushes, and I'm in the bushes with no shirt, and I'm trying to get it where I can gently, get it so that I can, pick it up. And all of a sudden, I'm surrounded by security with their hands on their guns.
Why?
And it's like, I look at them, I go, I'm no shirt, and yeah. I'm like in the bar, crazy guys in the parking lot. And so I went, I know this looks really, really weird, but there's a blackbird right here with a broken wing, and I've been trying to get it with my shirt, and I want to take it and get it help. And so one of them comes over, he goes, he's telling the truth. And so he reaches down and just grabs it and gives it to me. And I go, you must be from the country. So we got it, I got it. And now I called my sister, or headed, up in the car, and now headed, and I go, my sister, she says, no, take it to Pelican Harbor Seabird Station on right on the 79th Street Causeway. It's right, by the television station. I go, okay. And so I took it there. And while I was there, I met them, And they must have, people brought in while I was just talking with them, 3 pelicans came in. And I'm watching these people dedicated just like it's human beings in a hospital.
Yeah.
And so amazing. And these native species have a real hospital here. These are patients. I mean, veterinarians, assistants, nurses, the front administration of the whole shebang. And I was so impressed. I said, I'm going to send you a check every month. And I began that way. And then I became a member of the board, a board member at Pelican Harbor. And now building the new hospital is a pretty amazing thing. The new hospital is just spectacular. And Chloe, who is the chief administrator, is an amazing person. The board is an amazing group of people. And so I'm very privileged to be helping in that regard.
I want to know, I recently found out that you put your estate on for sale.
Which one?
I think the one in the Grove, correct? It's the one
in Redlands.
The Redlands.
Yes.
Tell me about that. Yeah, because you told me about that. It's near a grotto, or it's on a grotto.
Well, I have multiple grottos at my farm. Coral Rock. I worked with the greatest Coral Rock grotto artist, and working with Coral Rock is is no different than a sculptor working, to create any kind of sculpture. It's sculpting big. And I worked with Ben Bystrong of Jungle Bee. I thought he was the finest Coral Rock sculptor of South Florida. And amazingly, he passed away of pancreatic cancer a year after he finished Breezy Oaks, my farm, in the Redlands, off Quail Roost Drive. And so my farm actually, and the grottos of Breezy Oaks, were his last and his greatest work of art.
Why now? Why are you selling it now?
Well, because South Beach has been so decimated in business over the last years that having that farm is also a luxury that one has to be able to afford. And quite frankly, right now, I need to survive on Ocean Drive and in Orlando rather than afford that luxury, possibly.
After decades in business, what matters most to you today?
Excuse me?
After decades in business, in your whole life, arguably, what matters most to you today?
I love Miami Beach. I'm almost kind of sick of the war that's raged on with Ocean Drive for 10 years and spending millions of dollars to preserve Ocean Drive and fight that war. And it's probably shortened my life, but I still believe in Miami Beach, and I do my best to, now in creating and being one of those that created Sobe Business Alliance, we're talking about the biggest hotels on Ocean Drive now, becoming aware that there's an organization that hears them. They want to keep Ocean Drive open and functioning so that their customers can get to their front doors and have accessibility as well as life safety response times. And so I still feel committed to that awareness and hope that people will also not realize it's not the hours of operation, it's the deployment of our police, and what laws are we going to enforce? If blaring music out of cars or people partying in cars is a priority, well, a bicycle police can handle that.
Right.
And so it's really organized deployment and the creation of if you want to preserve these hotels, then let them also function, and realize that if we don't create events and create optimal safety at the same time as these events are happening, to fill these hotels, they have to die and just become rocks.
Right.
And so it'll revive itself, but it'll be after this administration is 10 years gone, and it'll be 10 years or 10 to 15 years. Remember, Fort Lauderdale got rid of spring break. It took them 15 years to come out, but they had built new hotels on their oceanfront. Coconut Grove got rid of their party atmosphere at late night. They went through 15 years of depression, but they came out with office buildings because they're surrounded by residents, and it made sense. Okay, my office can be right here. So office buildings made sense in Coconut Grove. Office buildings don't make sense from Washington, Collins, and Ocean Drive. So we have to come out still with finding prosperity, but it's always going to be based in entertainment to fill hotels.
Right.
Or let us knock the hotels down and build something new. And then whatever you want to do, let's do it.
What are you most proud of?
Excuse me?
What are you most proud of?
I'm most proud of the people that I work with, my family, my friends that also come to Mango's regularly. I'm most proud of many people in Miami Beach that may be retired now, but did their part in making Miami Beach prosperous. I'm more Mango's centered. I'm very proud of all of these people who are stepping up, because there are still hotel owners that I'm afraid to. I believe in the street should be open, but I'm afraid to put my signature. And all of a sudden, when they see 43 others with main hotels, they'll put their signature also. So this is a booming thing. I'm very proud of those people, and I'm very proud of the organizers. I'm very proud of the Clevelander group from Canada that stopped the city from destroying Ocean Drive when Gelber closed it for 6 weeks. I just want people to really, really know how serious it is when Gelber illegally closed it, and they were and also took I'm not remembering if the hours were taken also, but closed it for 6 weeks. Mango's gross income dropped $720,000 in 6 weeks. And it took 2 weeks to return after the Clevelander got an injunction for the court to reopen Ocean Drive, and the city will open Ocean Drive. But literally, the damage that has been done since 2023 has put us literally, I mean, people have dropped 25%, 30%. And coming back a little bit now, it's inching its way back now, and so there's been some good things going on, but to really punch it back takes a real organized effort, and it's not happening yet.
I understand you have a very expansive art collection.
A what?
Expansive art collection.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
Well, you know, Mango's, I mean, even sitting here in this bar top took 6 months to do the artwork by an artist, and then computerize it, and then get with another artist who does Italian glass murals, all over the Caribbean in hotels to get him to come in and now adjust this and then create an Italian glass mosaic. Each bar here is done by a fine artist. The artist who did these two bars got a gold medal at the Louvre in Paris at a competition with 37 other artists. Upstairs, Edouard Duval-Carrier has been Haitian. I've concentrated on Caribbean, Cuban and Haitian art for the most part, but some Miami art as well. But Edouard Duval-Carrier is an extremely noted artist from Haiti, French Haitian, and he was knighted by the French government for his contribution to art. Delta has 3 of his pieces out at the airport. Very expensive guy, and extremely well schooled, and he's to me the Picasso of our age. And then Humberto Benitez, I collected him, a Cuban artist, absolutely brilliant. And then Norwegian Cruise Lines, I think, picked him up, and his prices shot to the moon. And so I got in under the wire kind of with him. And I have a big collection of his in Orlando. During this war with Ukraine and Russia, I came across Arsen Savadov, his art, and Ukrainian war art. And I saw 2 of his pieces, one of which was somewhere around Maine in the United States, and the other one was in Ukraine at his studio. And I located both of them, and I bought both of them, and getting them to Miami was a trip. But I got those pieces, and I hope that I can show them at the Wilsonian so that people really see great art out of Ukraine, but so advanced. He was doing drones in his art before this whole thing of drone. And so his work is incredible. I have, various artists that I've collected and others that I've kind of sponsored here and there.
Beautiful. I'm gonna have, just to end off, I'm gonna ask you some rapid fire questions, okay? So just give me a quick answer. The most iconic celebrity encounter at Mango's?
Most iconic
celebrity encounter at Mango's?
Well, I met Robert Duvall sitting right over here. And Robert Duvall was a pretty cool guy. I had a great deal of respect for him and his work. My mother went running down for George Clooney. One day she was, George Clooney, she went running down. Those are, out of all the stars, a lot of musicians, major stars from the NFL, NBA, and baseball. We've had our share of many over the years.
Craziest thing you've ever seen on Ocean Drive?
And remember I said you had Gloria and Emilio one day, and you're sitting there right up there. So the what?
What's the craziest thing you've seen on Ocean Drive?
In what direction?
You tell me.
Well, I kind of feel badly about one that just sticks in my craw. The one that's the most traumatic was in a Memorial Day weekend, the first one with right here, Fat Tuesdays was over here, and they were noted for problem after problem after problem. And like 20 people were fighting in the street over there, just north of Mango's, and my guys set up kind of a perimeter to just protect everybody in Mango's, and there were no police, and they literally fought for 20 minutes until they were too tired. And I stated that was like those people were violent, and the only thing those people knew were violence, and they tried to make me out to then be a racist for saying that. And they took it out of context, and I was describing that whole thing that happened, and those people were violent, and they used that, like David Wallack is a racist, which is so far from my character. It hurt a great deal, but that is probably the lowest point. And in terms of the high points of Ocean Drive, I mean, there are many during the 2000 to 2018 was a golden period of many great things happening on Ocean Drive, almost too numerous, and even going to certain places on Washington in those days, Roses, and Arthur was the owner of that, and it was a cool jazz club. They're great restaurants of Miami Beach, and really, to me, Mango's Tropical Café is still a beacon of Latin American culture, and I'm very think it's still a shining star.
What's one Miami Beach regulation you would eliminate tomorrow?
All closures of Ocean Drive. Number one, what breaks my heart about that almost primarily is we're not even valuing the lives of our policemen or our firefighters. They're the first responders. And I talked to the president of the fire union, and I said, doesn't a couple minutes make a big difference in a fire? And he said, David, seconds make difference in a fire. And then when I go in video, cars pulling up to barricades and making U-turns because a group of rich retirees want to keep a barricade there for whatever reason, and I know those big fire trucks have to come in that direction, and I know they're going to get delayed. The first ones that are in danger are those firefighters, and the same for the police. The longer they let something go, even if it's 30-second delay, it's too long. And so the first thing that has to be realized is life safety is primary, and you cannot barricade Ocean Drive and still say life safety is paramount, because you have reduced the time that responders can get to any event by getting through barricades and anything that's blocking that barricade.
What's one thing people completely misunderstand about Ocean Drive?
Well, they've characterized businesses as being the bad guys. I mean, we sing and we dance, and we have people and governmental people, and people come from all over the world, and we're singing and dancing, and now, we have the chef that used to be at Prime 112 here at Mango's, so we've taken another really amazing turn in food and restauranting, and so here we all are working our best to take good care of those people walking across the street and walking and serve them, and it's a shame that that's not acknowledged. Those are a lot of employees that are dedicating their lives and feeding their families by taking care of the visitors we get to Ocean Drive.
What's one word to describe Miami Beach's future?
Incredible in the long run, and unless we change our path, dismal for the next 5 to 10 years.
What advice would you give younger entrepreneurs trying to make it in Miami Beach today?
Do your best to have our commission realize that you can't stay stagnant and keep your head above water. You have to be moving or you sink. And if you want to make a future in Miami Beach, then get in there and speak out and make yourself known as needing reform in helping businesses get open, not die on the vine trying to get open. And having a reputation for that only chases away our future.
Decades from now, what do you hope people think of David Wallack?
How far in retrospect are we going? I mean, Mangoes is known throughout the entire world. There isn't a country, if you wear a Mangoes t-shirt, and any single country, I mean, I've heard it so many times, that's why I'm saying it, that, you know, someone's going to walk up to you and go, I've been there. I was sitting in Amsterdam in a cigar, you know, place, and I was wearing a Mangoes t-shirt in a cigar a shop in Amsterdam. I go, I've been to Mangoes. It just is we're known all over the world, and Orlando is a boom town, and we're up there, and this is a work of art to me. Everything that I do is art. Everything I do is creative. Everything I do has a purpose of helping something or someone to do better.
David, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time. I'm glad you're able to convey your thoughts about Miami Beach, and I wish you the best. I really do.
Miami Beach is a magical, magical place. It's sort of like all we've got to do is let it happen, and it will. But policing in our generation is crucial in guidance to people out in the street doing the right thing. And if we set up our rules and administrate them properly, then everything else will become fertile again and grow.
Right. Thank you again.